We're in Joshua chapter 9, and we are studying a whole new period here. It says, Vayihi chishmoa kol hamalachim. It was, not and it was, just to make that point. It was when all the kings heard, Asher be'ever hayarden, that were on the other side of the Jordan, Bahar in the mountain, Uba Shefela, and in the valley, Ubechol Chof Hayam Hagadol, and in all the what do you call it? The shore, by the seashore. What do you call that?
The Great Sea, the Mediterranean.
Yeah, but by the shore of the Great Sea. In other words, the coastal plains. That's what I was looking for. El Mul Halvanon, opposite the Lebanon, the Hachiti, the Amori, the Hittites, the Amorites, Haknani, the Canaanites, Prizi, the Prizites, Perizzites, Ve'achivi, the Hivites, Vahevusi, and the Jebusites. Jebusites, I guess. Okay. Was it?
All the sites.
All the sites, right. Okay. And then what happened? So they all heard about what was going on. What did they hear, by the way? Come on.
That the Israelites were coming.
The Israelites are there already.
That the Israelites conquered the cities.
Which cities?
Jericho and Ai.
And Ai. What else did they hear? We have to review for Sue. So what else did they hear?
Maybe they heard about the blessings and curses?
No, that didn't hear. No. Remember, the kings are listening to what they need to know. So what did they hear about the conquering of Jericho and Ai?
Oh, that there was hardly any casualty among the Israelites.
Where was the casualties?
Ai.
Only in Ai. What happened in Jericho?
The walls came.
Yeah.
Not right. They just sank into the ground. Total victory. Okay.
A lot of miracles.
A lot of miracles. And what else did they hear that in their minds the Jews should have done? Oh, the Israelites at this point. No Jews at this point. They didn't even know the word Jew.
What was the question?
What did they hear that they felt should have happened? That the
king should have happened with the Israelites.
Right. Remember?
Oh, was the ambush that was set up?
No, not that.
Division of the spoils.
Nope, not even that. Oh, okay.
Don't look at me, I missed a couple.
Don't look at me, I missed it. Okay, there we go. Let's go a little further. Just keep that in mind, okay? Keep that question in mind. And they gathered together. All these groups gathered together. So you have, by the way, just for a count, how many peoples were there that gathered together? Chivi, Emory, Kanani, Prizi, Chivi, Hayavusi. How many are there all together?
Sounds like what, over 100,000?
No. How many nations altogether?
6.
How many nations were in Canaan? You know this? Come on, they have to teach you that at the seminary. How many nations were the Jews supposed to get rid of? How many nations were in the land?
7.
7. Oh, what happened to number 7 here? So only 6 are getting together. What's going on here? There's another question you should have asked. Only 6. What happened to the 7th?
So tell us.
I can't tell you everything. You have to wait. I have to set you up. Get your mind working here. Okay, so all of these 6, they gathered together. Lihilachem im Yisrael v'im Yoshua v'im Yisrael, to go to battle with Joshua and with the Jewish people. Pe echad, one mouth. Don't look at the English. Give me total translation here. Pe echad, one mouth. What does that mean, what does it mean, one mouth?
They spoke together. They were in accord.
They were in accord?
In accord.
Okay. That's how you would understand people without looking at the English?
Well,
you looked at the English.
I forgot it right. With one mouth. I mean, so they're together on it.
Together. Okay, sounds like they're getting together. Good. Okay. And suddenly we hear the 7th. Vayoshve Gibeon, and the inhabitants of Gibeon, which would be the 7th nation. Shamu, they heard, 8 Kol Asa Yoshua Liricho V'La'ai. They heard what Joshua did to Jericho and Ai. By the way, you should be asking, there's so many alarm bells that should be going off right now between verse 2 and verse 3 that I want you to tell me what the alarm bell should be. Verse 2 and 3. Just look at the English.
2 and 3?
Why would the Gibeon? Why didn't the Gibeons also unite with the rest of them?
Good. That's number one. That's number one. Number 2.
Why did they come up with this scheme?
Great. I'm saying that's great. Now look at the verse itself, 2 and 3, and tell me what's the difference between 2 and 3. Again, use the English or Hebrew, whatever you feel comfortable with this point, because it's something that's very glaring.
Why didn't the inhabitants of Gibeon hear when the rest of them heard?
Okay, that's also fair, Balt, right?
Verse 1 says, all the kings west of the Jordan heard. They heard it.
No, but I'm saying 2 and 3. Yeah. 2 and 3. When they gathered together to fight with Joshua and with Israel, one mouth or one agreement, and the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua did to Jericho and Ai.
Why Joshua?
Why not the people of Israel? What's going on here? In one place,
for some reason they attributed it only to Joshua's leadership.
It could be. I'm not guaranteeing that, but that's what we have to ask. The first case, you have 6 nations that are Pe'echad, and they're one accord, and they're saying Joshua and Bnei Yisrael, and Israel, not Bnei, and Israel, and suddenly Gibeonites are only hearing what Joshua did. They're giving credit to Josh. He's my best friend. Okay.
Are they somewhere geographically separate? That maybe
they're all together. I mean, I shouldn't say that they're having coffee like we are, but they're in the same area. They're all in the same areas. That's the beauty of Israel. Israel is very small. It's the size. It's a little.
So, in other words,
like New Jersey.
That those ancient kingdoms they would be talking to each other on a more or less regular basis.
Yeah, they probably had coffees together. That is
Turkish coffee, right?
Turkish. Yeah. That's how they call it get together. The kings would get together, and the people would do what they're doing, but the kings would get together, and that's how they could say, "Hey, did you hear what's going on? You know what's going? They're coming in, they're destroying us." Okay. So, just on those 3, let's see what's going on. What happens here? Okay? Because that's the major setup. So, the Malbim says like this. He explains that when they heard, what did they hear? They heard that Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, and Joshua specifically, did not start with peace negotiations in Jericho and Ai. They had expected, for some unknown reason, I don't know why they would expect it, but they were under the impression that if people are going to come in to take over the land, the first thing they should do is try to make peace. Let's have a peace accord. You want to come into the land, we're all friendly. Everybody's friendly when they're taking over, but they're all friendly. Let's make a nice peace accord. They didn't even ask us. They didn't give us an opportunity. That's what the 6 nations are hearing. That, by the way, let's understand something else. What does Shmoa mean? I want you to understand something too. What does the word Shama mean?
To hear?
To hear. What does hearing mean?
They listened
to.
What does listening ultimately do to you? Understand. They understood something. They understood in their concept. Their understanding was, if you're coming to my backyard, you should ask permission and let's work it out. Maybe we can all work together. Maybe we can't. It's not a prize. I'm not going to guarantee every time. So that's what they're starting with. They're starting with the understanding. They heard. Again, I heard. I understood this is what it is. By the way, there's something also very important. They heard of the event, and they put their own understanding into it. Again, you have to think of that. When I hear an event, and you hear an event, same event, we hear the same newscast, You come up with your understanding of it, and I come up with mine. If you really want the proof of that, watch any presidential address to the nation, what do they call it? State of the Union address. Any one of them. I don't care, Republican, Democrat, I don't care which one you listen to. And what will you hear right after that? The news media telling us what he really said. And I heard what he said. Right, and I heard what, right, and they don't agree with each other. Okay, but you heard what he said. I have my opinion, and the news media, who we look to as the experts, the pundits, and they tell us what he really said. And if I really want to go even further, I go to either NPR or Fox. And I listen to Rush Limbaugh or whoever is in NPR. And I get the real story. Okay? About what was said. So that's listening. I understand it from my perception.
It's like we talk about parsing the sentences out of a presidential speech. He can be talking for 20 minutes and they'll pick one sentence and their whole understanding turns on one word in that sentence or the word order.
Correct. And I want you to know it doesn't only work for presidents, it works for every clergy out there too. We make a side point, extreme side point, nearly a joke. You'll find this out. And that's all the congregation remembers. And they pick on you, and you're thinking, but I didn't speak about that. I spoke about this. No, you said that there was a side point. Yes, but that's what I heard. That's what I listened to. That's what I understood. Okay?
This came out in our class Tuesday. You were talking about people that won't look in your eyes. That it's very dangerous listening but not seeing the person because the body language tells when it's serious and when it's lighthearted. You know, you're rolling your eyes, and if you don't see all those markers, you can get very different understanding.
A rabbi once gave a speech, a true story. A rabbi once gave a speech, and a congregant came up and said, I can't believe that you publicly embarrassed me. How could you do that? I will never come here again. So the rabbi looked, not whether or not the rabbi really did want to do, I can't answer. But the rabbi looked at the person and said, God forbid that I would ever want to publicly embarrass you or even privately embarrass you. But you have to understand, I'm like an off-the-rack salesperson. I make a speech. If it fits, wear it. That's up to you. But I, God forbid, never said about you. Okay, so that's how it is. Now that's a direct assault on the person. But like I said, normally it's just an indirect thing that we're saying, and somebody chops on that. Or like you said, it could be the presidential speech. Doesn't matter what it's going to be. We pick on these 5 points. But the point is that we hear something and we understand it one way or another, and it's not necessarily the truth. The best thing, of course, is when you ask your wife, "What's wrong?" She says, "Nothing." And if you leave it at nothing, you're going to have the major fight of your life. Okay, so you have to, okay, when you're willing to talk, I'm willing to listen, sort of line, and maybe at that point you can sleep in the bed again. Otherwise, you're in the doghouse. The doghouse. The doghouse is really where you end up. Okay. You have to understand language. Again, you can't hear what you want to hear. Anyway, so they thought that they should have opened up with peace. And the chashu. And they thought, again, I'm going to the Hebrew first and then the English. When they saw that the other nations, they thought that the other nations would not have a chance to make peace with them. So Shamu, they understood. But they saw that, and they understood that the nation, when they went to war with they needed weaponry. They couldn't just fight a miraculous war. Remember, 70 people died, 36 people died there. So, and this strengthened their heart, it says, because they said, the Jews, the Israelis are fighting the war of a man. And there was a fighting conventional war. And for that, they could agree to get together. If it was a miraculous war like Jericho, walls sink into the ground, I come over, no casualties whatsoever, you're not going to go against a guy like that, or a nation like that. There's an impossibility. You can't win. You just give up, you say, take me over, okay? But once it's going to be that there are casualties, no matter how small, there was some chink in the armor, okay? Once that happens, now it's conventional warfare. If they could do it, then we can do a better job. So we can go to war against them. So they understood. One, you're a warring people. You don't want to make peace with us. You just want to come in and take over for whatever religious, fanatical reasons you have. Okay? We're not going to get involved in that. But we also see that you're not unconquerable. You already lost 36 people. The fact you wiped out 100,000 doesn't bother us. We lost 36. Okay, so we see that it's possible to kill you. And once we can kill you, we're going to go to war against you.
Reminds me of 6 Day War.
Reminds me of this last war, actually.
Yeah.
Not that I ever want to see war again. I prefer there be no killing whatsoever on both sides. But it's, again, when you see certain things, you have to understand it for what it really is. The 6-day war ends in 6 days. Never before, never again in human history will you see something like. I don't think you will anyway. Maybe you will, but it's or again 67 versus over 2,000. Okay. And regardless of how you want to parse out civilians versus there was no civilians in that situation. There were human shields. Okay, that's not going. Now I'm going to get all out of hits because of you. Okay. By the way, this is being recorded, just so you should know. It goes on YouTube. Yeah. So if you want to see something and be famous, there's your big chance. Okay. You can say I knew him when. Okay. Then it says that was the 6 nations. What did the Gibeonites hear? What do they understand? And why do they go through the ruse they're about to do? Okay. So it says, the Malbim explains, they also heard what Joshua did to Jericho and Ai. Now, why do they pick on just Joshua and not the people?
He's a leader.
He's a leader. They're not going to pick on the people. The people are the people. The other nations said, I have to fight the people too. And really, they're the ones who were injured. So even if Joshua is a great tactical leader, he still messed up a little, and the people weren't as strong as they would believe. So they heard the whole thing. The people of the Gibeonites are looking at the leader and what he did, and he's the one we have to negotiate with, as it were. So they saw that he didn't start with peace, and they understood that, and they saw, that they would not leave anybody alive. And they thought that they would not accept, that Israel doesn't accept anybody as giving in. That's how they understood that. Okay? So therefore, and according to Rambam Maimonides, when Israel was commanded, even in a war of what we call a mandatory war, which was namely the War of the 7 Nations, they still had to call out for peace. They still had to give them an opportunity for peace. And if they would accept, and the acceptance of peace relied upon 3 things. Namely, it wasn't good enough to say we're going to sign a treaty. What would have to happen is they would have to accept upon themselves the nations who would want to make peace, who would want to just lie down, as it were. They had to make 3 parts of that treaty. Namely, 1, they have to pay a tribute, taxes. Okay. Then they have to agree to be servants. You're not going to be equals. And finally, you have to accept upon yourself the 7 mitzvot, the 7 commandments of Bnei Noach. Again, as we know from other classes, non-Jews have 7 commandments to fulfill. Jews have 613. That's how God set the system up. Everybody will go to heaven. Everybody gets reward if all you do is fulfill your obligations. So therefore, when these nations who were idolaters, doing everything possible that was against God, God said to them, I want you to live too. And I want you to earn your merits. But you have to do what you need to do. Namely, follow the 7 commandments of Noach, the children of Noach, and then pay tribute to the new leaders of the land, pay taxes, and be their servants. By the way, being servants to the Jews isn't such a bad thing if you look back in the Bible, because we have to treat a servant better than we treat ourselves. So really, it's not such a bad deal. But who wants to be a servant, as it were? Who wants to be a servant to? So all three elements have to be there. Okay? If I would say I'll accept 7 commandments of Noah, but I won't pay taxes, but I'll be a servant 2 out of 3, no good. If I say 1 out of 3, certainly no good. I have to do 3 out of 3. And that's what we rule. Okay? Then it says, according to Maimonides, this is how we rule. And then if they would agree to those 3 conditions, then Israel would be obligated to accept them. They wouldn't have a choice. They would have to accept they would have to accept the people, the nation's desire to be part of them. And if we would kill them at that point, just outright murder, period. Okay? So, like we find, like it's written of before, it says, "Vaya im shalom ta'ancha." This is in the Torah. If they will answer you peace, in other words, they agree to all these 3 things. Vaya kol ha'am nimsaba yulachal lemas levavducham. Then all the nation that is found there will be taxpayers and to serve you. And with all this, it's still forbidden to make a covenant with them. You can't make an agreement, you can't make a brit, what we call a brit, a covenant. Why? Because a covenant is between beloved people. It's not beloved people we deal with. We're dealing with enemies, or we're dealing with people who are, ultimately enemies who are going to come and kill us when they get the opportunity. So we're not making a covenant because we don't want to, in our own minds, to ever let our guards down. Remember, the 7 nations who feel it's their land. And here we are, conquerors coming in. No matter how strong we are, sooner or later we're going to become weak. And that's how everybody thinks about it. So, take me over now, and then sooner or later, you'll go. You'll become fat, and you're not fat literally, but fat, you become lazy, and we'll take over again. No big deal. We can bide our time. So the Torah understands that. God knows who we are. And she said, you don't make a covenant with them. What you do is you allow them in, and you agree that they can live under these conditions. But be aware that it's not, they have to be aware this is not from love. This is just because God commanded.
That's what the Gibeonites came up with from a long
Correct. So it says, like it's written, like it's written in the Torah, you cannot make a covenant with them. Therefore, they complained. The people complained to the princes of that accepted the inhabitants of Gibeon, which we'll see as we go on, because they did make a covenant with them. Covenant is basically, you come to my place, I'll protect you. What do they call that in America? We call it something.
Sanctuary?
No. When ally. You'll become an ally. Okay. So umasha. English is my first language. I just can't remember these words there. So. Okay. And he says, and that which Joshua did open with peace, and as he started their negotiations with peace in Jericho and Ai, is because before they crossed over, that which he didn't start with peace is because before they crossed the Jordan, he sent 3 pronouncements. You know how in Israel, they sent the airplanes before they bombed the Gaza Strip, and they said, please leave the area because we're going to bomb this area. So they didn't. This is nothing new. This is done from Joshua's time already. This is actually from Moses' time, where they would send out the proclamation saying, we're going to come through, give up, because we're going to run roughshod on you. It's over. So either make peace with us, pay taxes, take on the 7 laws of Bnei Noach, and agree to be the servants of the people, or war. That's your choice. But they always did that. So Joshua sent 3 pronouncements over. Okay? And they said, whoever wants to make peace, make peace, like I said, and that requires us three requirements. And that, so he made a general pronouncement that everybody, all the 7 nations, they want to do it, fine. And the proof for this is that it says there was no peace. Later on, it's going to say in chapter 11, there was no city that wanted to make peace with Israel except for the Hivites, and because they were, that was from God, that he was strengthening their heart to meet in battle. In other words, once the inhabitants of the inhabitants of the land did not want to make peace, so God strengthens their heart, just like he did to Paro, and you asked about that last time. So just like he strengthened Paro, which means only that God gave them a little more to hang their hat on. Remember, anytime I have an excuse to do something, if I can hang my hat on that thing, I'm going to do it, no matter how stupid it may be. I'm going to do it. And that's why you have people go for these world records. Evel Knievel jumps over a 30,000 thing. Whatever he did, the guy is dead, I think, right? If he's not dead, well, okay, let him live to 120. But he did all these crazy jumps. People try to do all these record-breaking things. Why? To put one line in Guinness Book of Records, which can be wiped out by somebody else. Anyway, but that's the reason you're killing yourself? Yeah, it's all for the fame and the fortune. But you thought you could do it, and again, we all look at you and say, you're insane, but because this guy did it, so I can hang my hat on that, and I can do it too. Okay? So that's really what's going on. Whenever God strengthens your heart, he's not taking away our free will. What he's doing is, in the face of all adversity, he's allowing you to fantasize that you too can pull this off. That's all. But you always have under earth. Paro had it to the last second, according to that opinion, and and so did the 7 nations, as proven by the Gibeonites, by the way. It's proof that you could change. And every one of us, to the very last second of our actually doing the stupid act, we can always reverse that. We never have to do it. We always have the free will not to do it. Okay, not to go against God. We always have that.
Well, why didn't the Gibeonites just make a treaty with him instead of this deception?
I'm going to answer that. So it says, the others, like I said, God makes their heart a little hard, so he strengthens their heart, so they want to go to war. Like we explained, when it says, if they wanted to make peace, that they would, if the other nations wanted to, we would have had to accept it. Okay, and so then it says, and according to this, so he needs to explain why the Gibeonites needed to, your question, why they needed to do this ruse, because they heard what had happened to Joshua and Ai, and they mistakenly understood that to mean that they would not accept anything. Okay? Because the rule was, as far as we understood it, we sent out 3 pronouncements. Everybody said no. You say no, I have to take your word for it, and you don't get to change. That's how they're understanding it. Because when they came over, they didn't say anything to Jericho and Ai. Right? They didn't give them a second shot. They sent 3 pronouncements over. Everybody said, we're going to go to war. Okay, so we're going to war. So now the Gibeonites are saying, they're not going to ask this again? Well, now we have to do something. Because we know if we fight, we lose. You understand? And again, if you think about in your own lives, you'll see that this is a true pattern. When we see something that works against us, we fantasize and we have the whole dialogue in our head of what we're going to say to our boss, we're going to say to our wife, our kids, whoever we're fighting. And even though they may actually give in to us, but we're ready for the fight. And so we have to figure out how we're going to best do that. And then you go up and say, I need to talk to you. Oh, yeah, that thing I was talking. I'm going to give you a pay raise. No, you can't. What? Right? And you're floored by, wow, how did that happen? But that's what happened. So if they would have come and they would have said to Bnei Israel or to Joshua and said, Joshua, we see what's happening. do we need to fight, or if we want to do these three things, can we still get under the wire? Your choice. If you say no, so then we have to fight. We'll lose, but we have to fight. We're gonna die anyway. What do we have to lose? But if, on the other hand, since they didn't think that they could, they had in their mind, can't do it, so they have to come up with this whole ruse, which will work against them, as we know. We all know the end of the story. But it's that's what's happening, because they thought that they understood it the wrong way, that they understood something, and they were wrong with their understanding, so that was the whole mess up that they're making. But that's why they do the ruse. Okay? According to the Malbim anyway. Now let's go on. Would you have got that from the English?
No.
Okay. Welcome to class. Okay. V'yasu gam hema ba'arma. So it's right. So they also did something in Arma, which is deceit. V'yelchu, they went. V'yitzta'aru, and they disguised themselves. An interesting word. V'yitztayaru, they disguised themselves. Vayikchu. Now how they do this? Vayikchu tzakim balim. They took worn out sacks. By the way, it's interesting. You'll like that, Bill. You'll appreciate sakim in Hebrew on verse 4. Sakim in Hebrew is sack in English. Okay, so now you know where the word sack came from. It certainly didn't. Sak from Hebrew didn't come from the English, so you have to go the other way. Right, we're first. So sak balim is worn out. And why did they do that? Let's break this down really quickly. Why did they do that?
Make it look like they came from a long distance.
Great. Okay. And then it says they also the chamoreim, they had worn sacks on for their donkeys. But no dot yayin balim, and worn out flasks, skin flasks of wine. Umavukaim umitzorarim, and again they were with cracks and what's the other word? How do you say it? Tied up. They were tied up. They were bound and they had cracks. Again, make it look old. Una'alot balot, and worn out shoes. Umatilaut beragleim, that were like patches, or they had to be patched or fixed for the feet. Ushlamot balot aleim, also worn out pants on them. V'chol lechem sedem, and all the bread of their provisions, yavesha yanakudem, they were dried and like with stripes on them. Okay, and for those who really want to, I just leave you bread out. You'll see the same things they had. Okay, they're really trying their best to make this happen, to make it look like they're coming from a far away place. But Yelchu el Yoshua, and they went to Joshua, Elamachane Gilgal, to the camp in Gilgal, V'yirmu Elav, and they said to him, V'yel kol Yisrael, and to all the people of Israel, all the men of Israel, each man in Israel. How would you want to translate each Israel? Me eretz rechokah banu, we come from a far away land. V'yata kirtu lanu brit, and now make for us a covenant. Let's make an agreement.
Why would they be asking for a covenant? That's going a little bit too far, isn't it?
Why? Make allies. We want to be an ally. Why would it be too far?
They want the full deal. They want to be real friends.
Right. 100%. They want to be real friends. They want to get into everybody's good graces. And let's understand, the Jews were only commanded to kill the 7 nations. Mm-hmm. Not anybody outside of that I can make peace with.
Right.
There's no reason to make war with them. It's just this land, and the only reason we had to wipe them out, again, going back to the Torah, the only reason you have to wipe them out is because they're going to be thorns in your eyes. They're going to cause you to stray after their gods. Your assimilation is great. Like the Borg. Assimilation resistance is futile. You have to assimilate to us. And let's face it, and you see in America, I've said it many times, America is regardless of how much we want to say it's not a melting pot, it is the greatest melting pot of history, where all these different nations have come together from every single country, running away from whatever they're running away from, and we make a home. And it doesn't matter if I'm a Muslim, doesn't matter if I'm a Christian of whatever denomination you're going to be, doesn't matter what Jew of any denomination. It's only 2 denominations of Islam I know. So, but it's, I don't know, maybe
There's
it's more.
more.
It's more already? Welcome to America. Okay? But amongst the Jews, you also have, it used to be in Europe, you had, until the 1800s, one denomination, Orthodox, that was it. And then the Reform came. Then from the Reform, you had the Conservative. The Conservative, you had Reconstructionists. From the Reconstructionists, you had the Humanists. Everybody's being born up somebody else. But really, it's amazing what America has done, where we are not bound to God. We're not bound to anything. We are free with democracy, and therefore you cannot tell me what to do. Unlike in Europe, where we could tell you what to do, in every other country. Europe was the last stronghold of monarchies, where we told you what to do, what to think, and what to eat. Period. And I don't want Europe back. Thank you very much. I'd rather have America. I'm very happy I'm not in Europe. Okay, but the point is that we became the melting pot, and we have to pull all that together and try to find our way. Okay? And as a result, you have all this assimilation, and every church, every synagogue, and every mosque is seeing this. And that's why religion is a dirty bird in this country. And it's also because of all the power that was wielded in the old country, and also because of the corruption in the old country and in this country of the church, and how everything's, when I say church, in this point I mean all, okay? Of the religious bodies in all senses, they see corruption, and they don't see it worthwhile, and it's on the outside. And as Bill will testify, as we, the Jews, will testify, I don't know about Christians, but not to take Greek Orthodox out of Christianity, but we all used to live in the same neighborhood, like Orthodox Jews, still, where we're in proximity to the synagogues and we have to walk anyway. When you move away from that, and I go to the suburbs and I become the rich people, as it were, because I don't want to be in the inner city anymore, I lose that connection to my religious group. And then I really go into a melting pot, because my neighbors can be anything. Unlike here, where the odds are your neighbor, well, again, in a truly Orthodox system, you're going to have, most of them are going to be your Orthodox neighbors. And you won't see a Christmas tree. You won't see whatever they put up for Ramadan. But you wouldn't see that stuff. In Israel, you don't know it's Christmas. Amazing thing. You don't know it. In Muncie, New York, you don't know it that much either. Okay, or in these places what we have enclaves of the Orthodox Jewry, you really don't know. You can be totally lost. You don't know when I remember I was in Yeshiva July 4th, and I heard noise. I was thinking, and I had to think to myself, what's today? I wasn't following the calendar. And then I saw the fire, the fireworks. Oh, it must be July 4th today. But otherwise, I wasn't keeping up with it. I was involved in my studies. And since nobody was celebrating, they weren't having barbecues. That's what we do on July 4th. Barbecues and beer, But it's since it wasn't that way, so I wasn't aware of it. Certainly Christmas I wasn't aware of. There was no reason on the campus. There was no Christmas trees up there. So again, those holidays, unless you knew what the calendar was, you had no idea. And since I wasn't driving, I didn't notice that nobody was on the street either. Every other place I've lived, I've noticed the 25th is a great day for me to drive. Tremendous to drive on. Even the cops don't care. They say, go, leave me alone. Okay, but that's really what was going on here. That's why they're trying their best to stay under the radar. We want to make peace with you. And that's it. So it's not really strange. It's understandable. But what's strange, and that's what you should have picked on. So I'm going to read that verse again. And that's you're going to tell me what the problem is. They went to Joshua to the camp of Gilgal, and they said to him and to the people of Israel, we come from far away land. Now make a covenant with us. What's wrong with that?
Why Joshua and the people?
What should it have been?
Joshua.
Just Joshua. Joshua's in charge. What do you come to the rest of the people for? What would you say? I want you to answer your own question. Gives me time to drink my tea. What would you say? Why go to both? Go to the king. He's a king. Go to the king. I don't go to Obama and the Congress. I go to Obama when I want to make a peace treaty with the United States of America. It's up to him to bring it to the Congress. That's not my job. I go to him. Why am I going to the people too?
Maybe they're trying to assimilate themselves into the group at different levels.
Sympathy, at different levels. What else?
Well, for the same reason that they're not following their king.
Who's not following the king?
The Gibeonites.
No, the king is with them.
The king is with them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to get the widespread support of the people.
Possibly. What? Something else. I want to be more divisive.
Part of the deception that they could play on the sympathies of the people.
Be more divisive. If I don't get
The people would accept us even if the king doesn't.
Get multiple opinions.
Separate the Israelis from their king.
Correct.
From their
If I can't do it one way, I'll do it the other way. We have a break of powers here. We have Joshua, but you also have the princes of the tribes. Remember, Joshua is in place of Moses. Moses and any one of the Jewish leaders, they had to get all these different disparate groups. You have 3 million people. Yeah, and let's say by their numbers, 601,770 men. Okay, 12 tribes. They all have princes. They all have leaders of their tribes. Any one of those tribes can make a peace treaty all they want. I can't stop them. I have to unite these factions as a leader. That's my job as a leader. By the way, that's the job of any good leader, to unite the factions. Certainly in this country, we have factions. If the president who's going to be the most successful is the one who can cause people to cross the aisle for the good of the people. I want to say that very strongly, for the good of the people. Okay, if it's not for the good of the people, I'm not interested in crossing the aisle. But that's a good leader that says, okay, we have to, I know that you guys are separate, you all have different constituencies, but we have to pull together. In this case, they're used to a king, which doesn't necessarily have to, because the king rules. You don't like what I say, I kill you. But Joshua didn't have that clout, and apparently they understood that too. So and they see these different groups, princes, they have a whole government set up. You have courts. Think about what they did in the desert. They have courts, they have leaders, they have flags, 4 different flags, actually 12 different flags, but 4 major flags. They're marching in formation, and you have this religious leader.
This is kind of unique. We're comfortable with it because it's the United States. That's the way we're set up. But this is unique.
Correct. 100%. So it's true that they were going for public support also. And they knew that if Joshua said yes, they would get in. But what happens if Joshua says no? So let's go for the other tribes. Let's go for everybody. So we're going to play both sides of the fence. Really, that's, it's a good tactic on their part. It's a decent understanding of the people, but it's very strange in their world. I agree with that. Yeah. Okay, so then it says, Vayomer. Now it's written in the text as Vayomru. They said, but we read it as Vayomer. He said. Why Vayomru versus Vayomer? Well, it's a group of people, right? So that's why it would be Vayomru. They, plural. Wow. But since they're speaking as one, the Tanakh is saying Vayomer as one unit. They're speaking as a unit. Vayomer ish Yisrael el chavi. So the men of Israel, okay, in other words, as a group, they said to the Hivites, Ulai b'kirbiat hayoshev. Maybe you really live close to us. You're living in our midst. Ve'ech echrat lecha brit. So then how can we make a covenant with you? What's the question, first of all, based on what we know? What's the question?
Where
Again,
where are the Hivites coming in here at?
Say it again?
Where are the Hivites coming in here at?
It's going to be with the Gibeonites. Yeah, they're going to work together. Okay, so but that's one. It's a great question, by the way. I don't want to push off. It's a great question. Okay, let's understand. You have a good question. I just answered it, but you're good. It's a good question. Okay, but the other question is what? I'm asking you to identify a Brit. What did I say? What a Brit is?
A covenant.
A covenant made of between beloveds. What's their question? What's Bnei Yisrael's question? Bnei means sons of, the children of Israel.
Who are you? We don't know you.
More than that, you may be living within our midst. It may be a trick here. How can we make you a covenant? We can't make. If you live amongst us, what must you do?
The three things.
Three things. And as part, even if you would agree to those three things, can we make it a covenant with you? No. It's only between beloved. So you're coming with the wrong question, mister. We don't want to make a covenant. We don't know where you're coming from. It could be all a ruse. That's your question, by the way, right? That's what you said. The people weren't stupid. Maybe you're just making this up. How do I know you're not making it up? You may be coming from down the street. I don't know. We don't know everybody in the neighborhood yet. Since you don't know everybody in the neighborhood, maybe you're living with us, and then you just want to get out of this, and now you want a covenant? Impossible. We can't do it because God said no covenants with you people. You have three things. You want to do it? You can do three things. Otherwise, no. Okay, so that's their initial answer. Vayomru. So now who they speak to? Vayomru El Yoshua. Let's play the game. Vayomru El Yoshua. Avadecha anachnu. We are your servants. Oh, number one. They got what? Number one. By the way, well, your servants. Vayomer Alehem Yoshua. Yeshua said to them, Mi atem, who are you? Ume'ayin tavo, and from where do you come? You're my servants, very nice. Who are you?
Aren't they actually lowering the deal here too? Where it's going from covenant level to now we'll serve you.
Oh yeah, but they're trying everything. But they're also playing two sides of the fence there. Yeah. They went to Bnei Israel and they said, hey, Landsman! You know German? Okay, Landsman is comrade! Comrade? Landsman! I love you! Let's make a peace treaty!
The people of your land.
Right. So I'm saying that they would come and they were trying to do that sort of thing. We're all brothers. We're all from God. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, make up as you want. And we want to make peace with you and we love you. And they say, who are you? We don't know who you are. You may be living, and we're not allowed to make peace with you. Not like that. We can make an agreement. So now they go to the king, Joshua, as it were. That's how they're recognizing him and saying, your liege, we are your servants. Ah, you're my servants now. So yes, to the people they want, if they could have got right away with, we'll make peace, great. But once they saw that that's not happening, plan B. Plan B. Let's go for the other side of this. Well, I'll go to your king. I'll say, your liege, I'm here. Your servants are here. We're all set. And so Joshua says, so where are you coming from? I don't even know who you are. Okay. Now let's go back a little. Okay. So now the Malbim, going back to Dalet, and that verse 4 was again. They also came in with secrecy, with deceit. So the Malbim says, he says, like all the other kings, and when they would do something to save themselves, they would also do this with deceit. Apparently that was a normal thing for kings to do, according to the Malbim. Okay? And so they would disguise themselves. He says, there is a distinction between sending a messenger and between two types of messenger. One is a shaliach, an emissary, and one is just a regular messenger. Thank you. Because one is that they're going to bring the message and they're going to come back with an answer. So, right. So the hero Atzman Ki'ilu Haim, where's it go? Ashluchim Medinatam. So they appear as if they are messengers of their countries that need to send the message back. Okay, so that's really what he's saying, that these people were seen as messengers of their king with the message, and they're coming back. And so what they do, they took their stack, and so they would look like they're coming from a faraway country, like we all said, and they said to him and to the people of Israel, he says, Hine kritat brit, bein am la'am, yitave begimel panim. So when you have a covenant between nation to nation, you have three types. One is amim hashchenim ze lezeh. One is when you have nations that are neighbors to each other. So yichrutu brit bal yavor ish gevul re'ehu. The covenant you're making is you don't cross my border. Don't touch my border. Lahaziklo benitzke shchenim, and that's to strengthen to stop the damages that could happen. And that covenant is simply, we're not going to hurt each other. It's a non-aggression peace treaty. Good. That's number one peace treaty. Number two is ben am hevilti shchenim. These are two nations that are not neighbors. Yedhave krita brit sheyazru zeh lezeh, allies. They are going to be helping each other against their enemy that's going to come in an army. That's number two. And so, or you could be a trade agreement between them. Kabrit shebein Hiram the Shlomo, like you have between King Hiram, I think that's what you said in English, and Solomon. And that covenant is not made between nations themselves, merely it's made between kings. Like it says, trade partners, where when one king says to the other, we'll do this for each other. Okay. These things happen in general. Also, this type of covenant is not normally made between nations that are far away from each other. Because if they're made from one end of the world to the other, us in China, before we had airplanes, okay, imagine how much time travel you have. Literally, travel time. I should say it's not time travel, but travel time. Okay? You couldn't get over there fast enough. I remember when the Balkans were being invaded by whatever sheep herder was invading them. And so England was sending the boat, this gigantic boat, to protect their island of sheep herders. Okay, so the boat took a couple of weeks to get there. It was crazy, and you really want to tell me that's how you're going to help or protect? Not happening. So it's not normal, except today. Today we can get anywhere. But it wasn't normal in those days to make a peace treaty like that for trade or to help if I'm so far away. And finally, the last one is the Indian Hadad Ve'emunah. There is a covenant made between religions and faith. That one nation will accept the others. In other words, they'll agree to live in peace religiously. We have Masor Brit Datam, so they can start combining the religions. Like you had the pagans and Christianity. We talked about this many times, where you had Christmas trees, which was really pagan, and it came into the Christmas wreaths and so on and so forth. Okay, this treaty is between nations, not between kings. Resistance is futile. Let's get it together. We'll have a nice time together. We'll intermarry. We'll have a good. Everything will be cool. And that certainly is done with nations that are far away. So since that is something of the nefesh or the soul, doesn't matter the distance. So now these messengers, going back to the very beginning of the definitions, these messengers who are supposed to give the message back to the people, they originally wanted to come to let's share religion. let's go to the general nation. We'll become one nation. Moshe Ketuv, Vayomer Elav, El Kol Yisrael. And that's why they went to everybody. Va'amru me'er shechoka banu. We come from far land, and now we want to make a covenant with you. Shuba open echa, which is the first one, which is, again, let's just make peace, non-aggressive order. That's why they're saying, nah, we don't accept it. You're coming from a faraway land, and you want to make a non-aggressive peace treaty? That makes no sense to us. What are you, nuts? Well, how are we going to help you? You're speaking the wrong language. Understand? Okay? That's only made with people who are close to us that we're going to do that. And that's also between the kings. So it doesn't work. And we'll stop there at Zion and the Malbim. Remember, Zion and the Malbim. Okay? Number 7. We're on verse 7. I'm going to go back to that. And then we'll hear what the answer is. But that's their real objection. They're saying, it doesn't make sense. You want to make peace, but you say you come from faraway land, and you want to make a non-aggressive peace treaty, and you want us to come and help you. It obviously doesn't work. Okay? So we'll have to stop there.
We won't have class next week, right?